Okay, here's the beginning of Act 3. The first step is going to be to identify the oceanic islands. The idea here is, well, the first thing I'm going to actually ask you to do is go back to section 1.5 and add that layer to your map so you can kind of get so you can see what we're doing here. And I've named that distance to the Pleistocene Islands 1.5. And what you should get is a feature collection that shows the kind of the rough outlines of these Ice Age islands that were offshore Southern California and Mexico. And what we are going to do is compare these to our current islands with the idea that any of our current islands that overlap these Ice Age islands are going to be oceanic islands, but any islands that overlap the Ice Age continent are going to be continental islands. Is that is that fair? And so we could do this as a vector problem, but I want to take you through it as a raster problem where we tag these islands basically one if they overlap a an Ice Age island and zero if they do not. And I'm doing it as a raster problem just to refresh your memory on some steps that we've done in the past, leading towards the IP that I'll introduce tomorrow. So to get started on this, I'm going to go back to the starter script, copy it, and then come in here and paste it in. And so the first thing that we need to do is basically convert this um, this layer here, the distance of the Pleistocene Islands. I want to convert this into an image. And so to do that, I'm going to use the reduce to image method of feature collection, right? So I am going to be trying to use reduce to image. I'll just copy it now and say, okay, so what I want to do is grab the thing that represented uh, that represents a feature collection of these Ice Age islands. I think that was called Distance Pleistocene. And then I'm going to use that feature collection and call this reduce to image method that's going to take these two arguments, and the properties is going to be, I'm going to use the land property. That's been kind of our tagger, if that makes it's been the thing that we've been using to create the initial land binary. In this case, I think it's ones or zeros. And so what I'd like to get is an image where if it's an island, it's going to be one, and if it's not, it's going to be no data when we start off. But that's just how that is. And so we'll get to that. And then I'm going to use the reducer max. And, as we've found, the reducers in this step only really matter towards the edges, but I'm just going to, I think I'm going to use max here. And as a result, um, you'll see one, you might as well just use this reducer if you want to make your life easier as you follow along, especially if Act 2 is a struggle. So I'm going to run it, and I'm just going to kind of, it's mad about something. Oh, God, I always do this. You got to put this thing in square brackets. Sorry for my voice. And while we're here, let's just check this for ourselves to see if we got a feature collection coming out of this thing. And I might change this so that it's the first, because that's going to give us, oh, sorry, yeah, that's going to give us an image out of this thing, which is what we want. Sorry, I'm getting a little tired. And then the idea is that if we look at the bands, the band is going to be called max because the reducer we used was max. Is that fair? Okay, so I now have an image of the Pleistocene Islands, and what I want to do is now identify current islands that overlap Pleistocene islands. So where I'm going to go eventually here is I'm going to use a method of let's see, of an image where I want to reduce it by regions. So if I cruise down here and I say reduce regions, this is what I'm eventually using. So I'm going to copy that for now. And I'm going to say I want this thing to be equal to, oh, I guess I copied it too early. It's going to be this image that I'm trying to reduce. And then I'm going to use this, not rotate vectors, reduce to regions. And so, or just reduce regions. I'm once again going to copy this like that. And then before I reduce it, I just want to unmask it because this thing is going to kick out an image where if it's a Pleistocene island, it's going to be 1, but everything else is going to be no data. And I want everything else to be 0 rather than no data. So I'm going to say, please unmask that. And then I'm going to add the reduce regions. And then I've got to go fill out all of this monkey business. So I'm going to set up my curly brackets and my collection here. I want this to be the island's distance. I want this to basically be this layer that just has the islands on it, that and not the mainland. And so for me, that is called islands distance. And then for the reducer, I'm just going to use the EE reducer max to make sure that what I grab from this underlying image is the maximum value. And the maximum value is going to be 1 if it overlaps an oceanic, an old ice age island. For the scale here, this Pleistocene image again is 1000, so I'm just going to say that. For the CRS, I think I can say this thing, whatever the CRS is of this image I'm reducing. Why don't you go ahead and use that? So I'm going to say projection and then CRS, both with these uh, parentheses that hold nothing. For these, I'm just going to not worry about those right now and scale them out. And then for this, I just want to come down and paste it in here. Look at now and then. This thing should kick out a feature collection. So how about if I just look at the first one of it, hit run, and see how I do. And it's going to think about it. And then here's my feature coming in. And I should have it's thinking about it. And there's a feature. There's the properties. And the max is 1. So this particular feature overlapped an oceanic island. And that's good. Many of them will. In this part of California, a lot of these islands are oceanic. So great. So now I want to isolate those. So what I want to do here is create a new variable, basically create a new feature collection that's based on now and then, but I want to filter it and just grab where the max property is equal to 1. Is that fair? And then that should create a new layer that shows all my oceanic islands. And you can add this to the map if you just want to kind of do a quick test to see if that makes sense and run it. And it's going to be, I was lazy here because I'm not asking to include this, but it's just a quick way of visualizing, does this make sense? And so what I should have here, layer 10, are now going to be the current islands that are oceanic islands. And I think that looks promising, right? They're coming in as black here. They're taking a while to draw, but there they are. And there probably will be at least 1 down here, right? Because this guy, I don't think was ever connected. this. Yeah. Okay. So that looks good. I'm going to comment that out because you don't need to show that. I'm going to save this and I'm going to move on to the next step.